Jay Shear.
Jay Shear.
Jay Shear.
Jay Shear,
business consultant.
Jay Shear.
Jay Shear Business Consulting.
Welcome. I'm Jay Shear with Jay Shear Business Consulting. We build solid foundations for service-based businesses to grow and scale and achieve the results and success they deserve. And you've joined Business Minds Coffee Chat. How does one go from being the worst salesperson to becoming a top performer? What does it take to break through the mental barriers holding us back from achieving the life we want? Well, stay tuned because on this episode, we're going to explore these questions and much more. Our guest has had to overcome many obstacles to succeed in life. Despite contracting polio as an infant and walking with a brace on his leg, he earned a black belt in karate. He went from being poor to creating a wildly successful career by applying the principles he teaches his clients. He's a husband, father, and grandfather, a best-selling author, an in-demand speaker and trainer who has spoken on the same platform as Tony Robbins, Jim Rohn, Damon John, and many others. He's one of the highest-paid coaches and consultants in the world who helps business owners grow their businesses by 2, 5, or even 10x what they are currently producing. And he embodies the words of the late, great Zig Ziglar. You can have everything in life you want if you will just help enough other people get what they want. Please welcome the author of From the Trash Man to the Cash Man, How Anyone Can Get Rich Starting From Anywhere, Dr. Myron Golden. Myron, it's so good to see you. Thank you very much for being here today.
Absolutely, Jay. My pleasure, man. Thank you for inviting me. It's going to be fun.
Absolutely. Well, I am looking forward to it. And I've got to share with you that researching you and consuming your content has been not only life-changing, but it's been an amazing experience. And I'm so glad that we are having this opportunity to share your words of wisdom, your knowledge and experience with an even greater audience. So I'm grateful for you. So let's dig right in. One of the most interesting things that I discovered as I was researching you was your background, where you came from, your mindset, and how you've been able to go from where you started to where you are today. So share with us, if you will, a thumbnail sketch of your backstory. And when you're doing that, I would love it if you would share with us something that you believed about yourself that you discovered wasn't true.
Wow. So I started out at an early age, I guess, like everybody did, right? I'm the second of 7 brothers. I've got one older brother. I've got 5 younger brothers. And my parents were hardworking, but they didn't make a lot of money in their lives. But they taught us to work hard. And they knew how to work hard. They taught us how to work hard. And they turned 7 boys into 7 men. And I really appreciate my parents for that. They did not understand how money works, so they never had money working for them. They always worked for money. They insisted that we do our best at everything we do. And I did really well in school all the way through, Jay, all the way through the 3rd grade. 4th grade through the rest, it was a downhill struggle, let me tell you. And mostly because I got bored. I just felt like it. I felt like literally in the 3rd grade, after we were going over things we had already gone over the year before, I felt like they were wasting my time. So anyway, that's another conversation for a different day. Mm-hmm. And I graduated from high school by the skin of my teeth, but I did graduate second in my class. It was a class of 2. My little brother was a valedictorian. We graduated from a small Christian school in Pennsylvania. And because I was a glutton for punishment, I went off to college, right? And because I didn't have any money, I got financially withdrawn almost every semester. But while I was in college, met this beautiful girl, made her a lot of promises, wrote her a bunch of poems, finally got her to say I do. And it wasn't very long after I got married that I realized that no one taught me the marriage math. And the marriage math is basically, if you're doing really, really bad financially and you get married, you're instantaneously, automatically doing twice as bad financially, right? And so if you're having a hard time taking care of one person, taking care of 2 is twice as hard. And so I still didn't understand anything about business or money. And I thought the way you make money is by having a job. And but I got started in a business shortly after I got married, selling insurance and investments. And I was horrible at it. And I was horrible at it for a very long time. In fact, I got started selling insurance and investments. It was something I did part-time, but it was something I was very intentional about, and it's something I worked on every day. And even with all of that, it took me a year and a half to make my first sale. And so one of the things that I believed about myself and one of the things I believed about myself was I didn't like my name. So when I was growing up, I didn't like my name. I believed that all of my brothers had normal names: Jeff, Mike, Rob, Dwayne, Derek, and Mark. And when my parents came to me, all they could think of was Myron, and I hated it. Okay. So that was something that I believed when I was a child that I discovered later wasn't true. I mean, I love my name now. Part of the reason I love my name is because it gives me the ability to tell the story about how I hated my name and now I love my name and what it represents in the marketplace. And but one of the things I believed about life was I didn't believe people bought new cars. I believed the best way to make it through life was to buy less than desirable, less than functional vehicles, houses, whatever, and then you fix them up and make them better. And so what I believed was I bought the thing that I think one of the biggest truisms that isn't true that I've ever discovered in my life is this lie that time is money. I think that's one of the most financially damaging lies that people believe. And I bought into that lie. And when you buy into the lie that time is money, what you will do is you will sell a whole bunch of your time, like a whole bunch of your time for a little bit of somebody else's money. But even worse than that, as if there is something worse than that, and there is, but worse than that is you'll waste a lot of time trying to save a little bit of money. And once you figure out that time is not money, but time is infinitely more valuable than money, then you will invest as much money as necessary to buy back the rest of your life. So hopefully I didn't go too deep, but that was a breakthrough principle for me. Time is not money. Time is infinitely more valuable than money. And time is the stuff that life is made of. And when I understand that, then I will pay whoever is necessary, however much is necessary, to buy back seconds. I'll spend $100, $200, $5,000 to save an hour of my life. Because if you think about it, if you're going to live to be, let's say you're going to live to be 80 years old and somebody kills you when you're 75, they cut off 5 years of your life, right? So 5 years of your experiences have been wasted. But what's the difference in cutting off those 5 years at the end of your life, or just flushing those 5 years down the toilet an hour at a time, doing things you could have paid somebody to do all the way through your life? What's the difference? It's wasted time. It's like the essence of life, and you wasted it. So anyway,
so true.
Yeah, that's a breakthrough. That was a breakthrough for me.
Well, that's a huge point that you make time and time again, which is an important one, and it's one that I certainly look back. There aren't many things that I would change about my life leading up to this point, but one of those key principles is what you just hit on about the value of time. And I think about, had I realized how important that was much earlier in my career, how much further along I could be today, or the different type of outcomes that I could experience today.
Absolutely.
But all we can do is we can look in the rearview mirror to learn from the past, but then to be able to carry that message, and let's focus on the future.
Absolutely.
So I want to go back to your time. You were with A.L. Williams.
A.L. Williams, yes, A.L. Williams.
And A.L. Williams, that's when you were involved in insurance and investments, correct?
Correct. Mm-hmm.
So A.L. Williams is a MLM, and one of the things that many MLMs are known for is providing strong mindset coaching. They get involved in a lot of self-development and those sorts of things. Was that something that were you exposed to that during that time? And was that instrumental in your growth?
Absolutely. The very first seminar I ever went to in my life was an A.L. Williams Fast Start School. And I was blown away by all these people who are doing this amazing stuff. And the stuff they talked about was so different than the stuff anybody in my life talked about. Absolutely. So mindset, if you think about it, everything that you produce in your life starts as an idea. The iPhone started as an idea. Every book that you've ever read just started as a concept in somebody's mind, right? Every business that you see as you drive down the road started as a concept in somebody's mind. Zoom, we're on Zoom right now, right? Somebody thought of Zoom one day and all of a sudden they started taking action on it. So yeah, mindset is everything. And if your mindset is what I would call offset, then what it does is it takes you off of all the path of acting on your ideas. But if your mind is an onset mindset, then it literally sets you on the path of taking action on your ideas. And so it's better to have an onset mindset than an offset mindset.
Yeah, I love that. Yes, so well said. I go back. I was exposed to a Dale Carnegie course, and I knew nothing about Dale Carnegie. I knew nothing about the world of self-development. This is when I really first entered the corporate world, and this was in my early 20s. And Myron, it opened my eyes and it rocked my world. And
Absolutely.
It's so interesting how an experience like that just plants a seed, and then we allow that seed to germinate and see what ends up blooming from there. So it's amazing. And go ahead. I'm sorry.
I just want to. It's really fascinating that, like, if we take the word believing, right? So believing. In fact, if you want me to, can you see that? Okay.
Yes.
I'll do it like this. So if you take the word believing, and then you take the word believing, and then you take the word believing, and I know I wrote it in two different colors, right? So believing, and then we take the word and we write it one more time, believing. Everything starts as a belief, right? And our expectation is our greatest superpower as a human being. So if you look at believing, it looks like it's the same thing. But this word, 3 different times, 3 different colors, tells us a story about our lives. And what is the story that it tells us? It tells us that you will be living what you're believing, even though you be lying.
Ooh.
Now, you will be living what you're believing, even though you be lying. And I know that's not good grammar, but it's a very good illustration. Now, what do I mean when I say you be lying? Well, first of all, anything you tell yourself about a future of outcome, you made it up. Like, it doesn't matter. I'm right now in my studio in one of my upstairs bedrooms. When I get done, I'm planning on going downstairs, and I'm planning on grabbing my stuff and putting it in my car and going to play golf. But if I say I'm going to play golf this afternoon, I made that up, because the reality is I might get to the top of the stairs and fall down the stairs, God forbid, but that's a real possibility. But I don't tell myself, oh my goodness, I have to make sure that when I get to the steps, I don't fall down the stairs. I have to make sure that when I get in the car, I don't slam my arm in the door. I have to make sure that when I get in the car that I don't run over somebody's cat. I've got to make sure that, like, we don't go through life describing all of the contingencies that we want to miss out on. We just say, well, I'm going to go play golf, right? We set our intention on the outcome, even though I'm making it up. So anything I tell myself about a future outcome, I made it up. The difference between people who succeed and people who fail is people who fail put their Apple Watch on. Don't put their Apple Watch on Do Not Disturb, so Siri thinks you're talking to her. So the difference between people who succeed and people who fail is people who succeed, they take ownership of the result before they know the path. So we make up a story about the future that empowers us in the present. Whereas people who struggle their way through life, they make up stories about the future that disempower them in the present. But if I say this is going to work, I made it up. If I say this isn't going to work, I made that up. If I'm writing a book and I say no one will ever buy this book, I made that up. If I'm writing a book and I say this is going to be a bestseller, I made it up. Here's the reality. I'm always making up stories all day, every day. I'm making up stories about my future. If I'm going to be making up stories about my future anyway, I might as well make up stories that empower me instead of stories that disempower me. So anyway, that's what that made me think of when you started talking about that.
No, thank you for illustrating that. That's a powerful point. And also, if we don't create those stories ourselves,
Boom.
someone else is going to create those stories for us. So going back to your point, do we want to create the outcome, or do we want to live someone else's outcome for them and take their own beliefs? And absolutely not. Let's figure out how we can take ownership of that so we can empower ourselves to create anything and everything we want to in our lives. And you're a great testament to that, in not only having the right mindset, but then being able to try different things, being adaptive, always taking action. And as I mentioned in the intro about Zig Ziglar's quote, focusing on others, right? How can I create change? How can I create transformation? What can I bring to the market that's going to have a large enough impact that's going to create the type of life that I want, because I'm creating better lives for everyone else?
Absolutely. And so it's really interesting. Like you said, is it going to be the mindset that I develop? Everyone is always in mindset development. You're either in personal mindset development or you're in cultural hypnotic societal mechanism mindset development. Either you're going to develop your own mindset or you're going to let the cultural hypnotic societal mechanism program it for you. And the cultural hypnotic, I'm going to give you that as an acronym. The cultural hypnotic societal mechanism, or the CHISM, as I call it, it wants to program you to be, number one, sick, number two, broke, number three, misinformed, number four, fearful, and number five, angry. So you can let the cultural hypnotic societal mechanism program you, or you can determine, I am going to program myself to be well and to be rich and to be well informed and to be courageous and to be cheerful or joyful. I like joyful even better than cheerful. And joyful. So these require attention and intention. This requires just putting your mind in neutral and letting someone else push you around.
Wow. So before you go any further, for those that are listening to this, whether you're listening or watching, Myron is using a whiteboard. So if you're listening, you're not necessarily seeing this, but you're hearing the words. And what I think is important here, no matter how you're consuming this content, is right now, grab a pen, grab a piece of paper. Don't miss this opportunity to take notes. And then, as we continue this conversation and we start to unpack more of what we're talking about and what Myron's sharing here today, it is going to take the lessons that you're learning, that you're writing down, and that you're going to apply those in your life and business. Writing things down is important. That's a great first step. That's how we commit things to memory. That's how we start. That's how the magic begins. But nothing happens with it until you act on it. So listen, write, and then take action. This wasn't necessarily the path that I was expecting, which is totally fine, because I want these conversations to be as impactful as possible and as organic as possible. So let's go back to CHISM for a moment, because I think it's so important that we recognize, and I love how you have outlined that and then taken the antithesis of each of those areas, right? But it's so important to understand what's happening and how information's coming to us. So keep going down that thread a little bit, if you will.
So first of all, let me say, I said it, what we talked about believing, right? And now we're talking about like your programming. One of the reasons programming is so important is, and you have to be intentional about how your programming gets installed and who's installing your programming, is because you will never, that's you, me, nobody, we will never behave consistently in a way that's inconsistent with our programming. See, our being creates our being, which is our identity, creates our doing, which is our activity, which produces our property, which is our having. And so the formula is be, do, have, which means don't be, can't do, can't have, right? And what happens is so many people are starting out at the end. They're saying, I want to have, I want to have, I want to have. And that desire to have a nicer house, a nicer car, a better income, better vacations, a better life experience for your family, those are all natural God-given desires. But he gave you those desires so that you would yield to doing more or attempting to do more until you figured out, wait, I can't do this. And then ultimately you would yield to the thing that he desires most for you. And that is to become more than you've been being so you can do more than you've been doing. And ultimately you will have more than you've been having. Like that's the process, right? And so understand that expectation, we talk about mindset, like people talk about the faculties of the mind and mindset. What does it even mean to have a mindset? What is a mindset? What's a mindset look like? How heavy is a mindset? What color is a mindset? No, a mindset has to do with what you already have set. It's like a pre-planned response or a pre-planned set of actions or reactions or responses to a given set of stimuli. That's what a set is, right? And so like mindset, the most important part of your mindset is your expectation. Like expectation is your greatest superpower as a human being. We have the ability to expect outcomes in the face of seeming impossibility. And one of the things that I like to say is the only thing that I believe is impossible for me is the idea that something could be impossible for me, right? So I only give energy to outcomes I desire. Most people only give energy to outcomes they don't desire. They say, well, I'm going to work on this, but it'll probably never work. Why would you do that? Like I play golf with guys. I don't know if you play golf or not, Jay. But and they'll get up over a 2-foot putt and they'll say, right before they hit the putt, they'll say, I always miss these. Like, what kind of insanity is that? Right? I never allow my expectation to pull against my desire. I always recruit my expectation to pull in the same direction as my desire, because that's my best chance at producing the outcomes I desire. So when I talk about the culture hypnotic societal mechanism, like you have to intentionally decide that you're going to program your expectation and only give energy to outcomes you desire. Every high achiever in the history of the world was a high achiever because they had what psychologists call a gigantic reality distortion field, right? That's what it's called in psychology. Reality distortion field. Sometimes my son will say, Dad, you have like one of the biggest reality distortion fields I've ever seen. And I always say, how do you know that my reality is the one that's distorted? Maybe it's the little reality that most people believe in. Maybe that's the one that's distorted. Maybe the possibilities are as expansive as the ever-growing universe. Maybe they're that big. And so instead of the possibilities being limited, I just finished a Daniel Priestley book recently. I just finished 3 Daniel Priestley books recently, actually. Oversubscribed, Key Person of Influence, and 24 Assets. But in Key Person of Influence, which he's teaching you how to become a key person of influence so you can build an oversubscribed business. One of the things he said down toward the end of the book, it was mind-blowing. And it's like, I never heard anybody talk about this. He said, most people fail because they believe in ILR. I'm like, ILR? I've never heard of ILR. What's ILR? He said, the illusion of limited resources. That's so good.
Wow.
Because the idea that resources are limited is an illusion. In fact, are you ready for this? The idea of resources is an illusion. Resources are the result of resourcefulness. So resources are the result of resourcefulness. Yeah, nobody thought, until somebody figured out how to turn oil into fuel, we just thought it was black sludge and it was a pollutant that was like polluting everything, right? So it's the resourcefulness of human beings that turn things like wood into a resource that you can build a house, right? And so the question you got to ask yourself is, how are you empowering your expectation to turn a roadblock into a resource?
Love that. And Myron, there are examples around us every day of abundance and being able to use resourcefulness to create magnificent outcomes. And you can name the names just like I can, but you know, Elon Musk is an example. The things that we could not even imagine at a certain point in time, Elon Musk and many other examples like that are able to imagine those because they realize that there is an abundance out there. There's a solution for everything. All I need to do is find it, match my belief to my resourcefulness, surround myself with the people that I need in order to achieve that, and get it done.
Absolutely.
And so it's incredible. And I this part of the conversation also, I think, is very important because it talks about the difference between abundance and scarcity. And when we live in a world of scarcity, and you came from a very challenging upbringing, you mentioned that your parents maybe didn't have an understanding of wealth or money, how money works.
Yeah.
And when that happens, it constricts us, right? It puts us in a box of limiting beliefs where when we reach a certain level of income, let's say, we stop there. We sabotage ourselves because we don't have the right tools and the mindset around how to break past that and be able to tap into this world of abundance in a different way of thinking. So
absolutely. It's really interesting. You're talking about Elon Musk. When you say Elon Musk, it automatically makes me think of Jeff Bezos, and then I think of Steve Jobs, and I think of all these people, right? And we're talking about like the limitlessness of resources when you have an unlimited resourcefulness, and it's fascinating to me. I believe in the concept of infinite abundance. And infinite abundance means there's more than enough for everybody to have more than enough, and there'd still be more than enough left over. The idea that there is competition. Nobody can compete to be Myron Golden. I'm the one and only. There may be other people with that name, but they were not sent here to rule over my assignment, right? And so when I think about that, I think about the fact that you said for every problem, there's a solution. You're absolutely correct. For every problem, there's a solution. Have you ever thought about this before, Jay? For every problem, there's a solution, and every solution creates at least 10 new problems. Now, what does that mean? That means we will never run out of opportunity. Let's say somebody wants to know how to create wealth. Let's say somebody wants to know how to 10x. You said 10x, talked about 10xing the business, right? So let's say somebody wants to 10x their business, and I write a book. This is how you 10x your business. Here's how 4 moves that can take your business from 10,000 a month to 128,000 a month, right? And I write a book on that, right? So I solved that problem for them. But now I've got a problem because I wrote the book, but now I've got to have a book cover design. That's the problem that it created. Now I've got to have a publisher. Now I've got to have a printer. There's 2, 3. Those are 3 problems that now I've got to have some place to sell the book. There's a 4th problem, right? Then we got to get the book from me to them. Now we got to deliver the book, right? And so that's 5 problems that book solution created. And now there are 5 more people. There are 5 more industries that can generate revenue to pay employees because I created a solution. Every solution creates at least 10 new problems. And those 10 new problems now have solutions. And that's why the opportunity to create abundance and more abundance always exists, but it doesn't just exist, it multiplies.
Powerful. So powerful. And what an amazing way to look at the world, right? The right type of optics to look through. And when we're focused on looking for the solution versus focusing on the problem itself, it opens our eyes and it opens our hearts and our minds to just so many amazing things, amazing people. And
absolutely.
I look
at
amazing possibilities. So true. And I look at where we are today with the pandemic that we're experiencing. And I've seen the best of people. I've seen people that have opened their minds up to creative ways of serving, creative ways of pivoting absolutely. And changing their business models and just incredible things. And then I've seen others that they've not only struggled, and let's not talk about the health side for a moment, right? We don't want anyone to get sick, but
right.
We also see where situations like this, there's so much fear that it blocks people from being able to see the solution. It blocks people from being able to open themselves up to absolutely. Greater levels of creativity. And absolutely. that part is very sad. That's a difficult thing to see. So share with us maybe some ideas and some things that our audience can start to pay attention to, some things that they can focus on, because this takes daily practice. When you start to look at changing your mindset, it's not a one and done situation. It's like going to the gym.
You got to do it consistently and persistency.
Yes,
consistency and persistency. Exactly. So it's interesting. Like when you were talking about that, it's fascinating to me that the very first temptation in the history of the world, the very first temptation in the history of the world was the temptation to focus on lack. Well, we'll say what? You're familiar with the story of Adam and Eve. So Adam and Eve were in the Garden of Eden. The word garden means enclosure, which means there was a wall around it. The word Eden means pleasure. So the Garden of Eden was the protected place of pleasure. In the Garden of Eden, they had all kinds of trees. And God said to Adam and Eve, he said, of every tree of the garden, thou mayest freely eat. So they had apple trees and plum trees and pomegranate trees and peach trees and pear trees and avocado trees and pecan trees and walnut trees and almond trees and olive trees. And they had all these trees and banana trees and lemon trees and tangerine trees and all these different kinds of trees, right? And so Adam and Eve had all these trees, and God said, of every tree of the garden, thou mayest freely eat. Every tree, you can eat off of it for free. So every tree of the garden, thou mayest freely eat. Then he said, but of the tree of knowledge of good and evil, that's in the middle of the garden, you can't eat off that one tree. So I want you to wrap your mind around this, Jay. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to change this to this so you can see it better. So every tree freely eat. Let me ask you a question. Are every and freely lack words or abundance words?
They're abundance words.
Those are words of abundance. Every freely, it does not get any more abundant than every freely. Every freely is like the breath that you breathe, the air that you breathe. Every breath freely breathe, right? So every tree of the garden thou mayest freely eat. But of the tree, that's the tree that's in the midst of the garden, it's in the middle of the garden, don't eat of it, because the day you eat thereof you shall surely die. So you got Adam and Eve over here, right? And they're in the Garden of Eden. And here's what it says. God said, of every tree freely eat. And it says, the serpent was more subtle than a beast of the field which the Lord God had made. And he said unto the woman, yea, hath God said, ye shall not eat of every. Not, you shall, I'm going to move this, make this a little smaller, move it down just a smidge. Okay. Yeah, God has said, ye shall not eat of every. So here's what Satan did. He added a word. He added the word not, and he took out the word freely. Does that change the meaning?
Yeah, yes, it does.
It absolutely changes the meaning. And the reason he started out by changing words is because Satan realized something. When you change what you say, it changes what you see. Because words are not just a vehicle of communication. They are the window through which we see the world. Do you understand? If I look at something and I don't have a word for that thing, I have no way of filing it in my mind. So words are the window through which we see the world. Of every tree freely eat. The woman said, we may eat of the fruit of the trees of the garden. So she took out every and freely. She didn't say we may eat of every tree of the garden freely. She said we may eat of the fruit of the trees of the garden. She took out the word every and the word freely. Does that change the meaning? Absolutely change the meaning.
Yes.
So here's what happened. He said, if God said, and the serpent was more subtle than a beast of the field which the Lord God had made, and he said unto the woman, yea, hath God said, ye shall not eat of every tree of the garden. The woman said, we may eat of the fruit of the trees of the garden, but of the tree that's in the middle of the garden, God has said, ye shall not eat of it, neither shall you touch it, lest you die. But God didn't say don't touch it. The woman thought that she was going to use self-control. She thought she was going to use discipline to not do the thing she wasn't supposed to do. But willpower doesn't work like that. She was going to use willpower. If I don't touch it, I'm not going to eat it. Satan said, you think if you don't touch it, you're going to eat it. I got a better way of making you eat it than getting you to touch it. And here's what he did. He got her to pay attention to it, because he knows where attention goes. Where attention goes, intention follows. So if you don't want to give something intention, don't give it any attention. If you want to give something intention, begin to give it intention. So here's what happened. Eve started focusing on that tree. And here's what it says next. Satan said, ye shall not surely die, but God doth know the day you eat thereof, your eyes will be open. You shall be as God, knowing good and evil. And then it says, when the woman saw that the tree was good for food, she gave it attention. and there was a tree to be pleasant to the eyes and desires to make one wise. She took of the fruit thereof and did eat, gave also unto her husband with her, and he did eat. Here's what I want you to see. The abundance of all the trees was there. The lack, the only thing they lacked was there. They had way more abundance than they had lack. By the way, so do you. So do I. The abundance and lack are both there, but we have way more abundance than we have lack. But when we give attention to the lack, it seems eventually to be the only logical choice. And so what happens, Adam and Eve had to walk past all of their abundance to get to what they lack. They had to ignore their abundance and focus on their lack. Here's what I'm here to tell you today. Nothing perpetuates lack like focus on lack. Stop focusing on what's missing in your marriage. Stop focusing on what's missing in your business. Stop focusing on what's missing in your finances, because the more you focus on it, the more you multiply it. So focus on what's there instead of what's missing. That's my advice.
Wow. Such powerful advice, and what a great example. And thank you for walking us through that example, because when I look at my own life and when I look around my community, I've experienced that myself, and I have to remind myself to be self-aware enough to know, and I do this for a living, right? But I have to remind myself to focus on the things that I actually want, focus on the abundance, focus on the direction that I want to go, not focusing on what I don't have or the problems that I have. And we see that all the time. It's an unfortunate reality, but when we can flip the script on that, as you're explaining here, that's when amazing results start to occur. And again, I think it highlights, Myron, the importance of setting the right intentions and setting the right goals, because when we're doing that, when we're setting the course and we're setting the direction that we want to go, we stay laser focused on that, right? And we start to work toward it. We put the right processes and systems in place, and we surround ourselves with those that we need in order for us to achieve. And yeah, wow, what an amazing example and advice that you've shared. Thank you. So I want to talk about an area that you're known for and that you excel in greatly, and that is selling from the stage.
Sure.
So share with us why selling from the stage is so powerful. So that would be one piece of it. And then also share with us those that are successful at it, why are they successful? And then those that aren't achieving results, why is that? And what can they do differently?
Okay, so selling from the stage is powerful because it gives you the opportunity to collapse time frames. Like I talked about it before, but time is not money. Time is infinitely more valuable than money. So if I'm selling a $1,000 program and I'm selling them one at a time, and it takes me an hour to do a presentation, and I want to make 10,000 a week, then it's going to take me 10 hours this week. Or if it takes me 3 hours or 90 minutes, whatever, I've got to multiply that. But if I can do that same presentation, if I can do that one presentation to 100 people, or that same presentation, like if I want to make $100,000 and every time I make a sale, it's $1,000, but it takes me an hour. If I want to make $100,000, it's going to take me 100 hours. Or if I can talk to maybe 1,000 people in an hour and convert 10% of those, now I've made that $100,000 in an hour. And so it's selling from the stage is important because it gives you the ability to collapse timeframes. Why do people have a hard time selling from the stage? I believe that people who are successful at selling from the stage are successful at selling from the stage because they're good at sales, right? And I believe that, and they have people skills. I believe that people who struggle selling from the stage, they struggle selling from the stage because they struggle selling. See, I believe that most people who are in business and most people who are in sales don't like sales. And they don't like sales because they've been programmed by the cultural hypnotic societal mechanism to believe that selling is something you do to people instead of something you do for people. So I believe that selling is something I do for people, not something I do to people. And I love to pay the people who serve me. And therefore, I believe that the people I serve love to pay me. So if I believe that people are irritated, like if I'm irritated every time somebody attempts to sell me something, then I'm going to believe other people are irritated when I'm trying to sell them something, right? So if my belief is that selling is something you do to people, then I don't want people doing that to me, and I believe that other people don't want me doing that to them. But if I believe that selling is something you do for people, then when somebody's attempting to sell me, even if I'm not buying, I'm learning, so I'm taking notes. So when somebody is attempting to sell me something, that's always a great experience for me. It's either going to be a great buying experience or it's going to be a great learning experience. And when I'm attempting to sell to somebody, then it's either going to be a great buying experience for them or a great learning experience. But those are the two outcomes, and either one of them are good. So whereas most people who are in sales believe that, well, I'm going to get these people to buy this thing so I can make some money. So if I can say this, if I can give you the greatest understanding of selling, I believe, that you could possibly have. And you've heard the phrase that people love to buy, but they hate to be sold.
Yes.
You've heard that, right? Okay, that's another one of those truisms that isn't true. That's one of those lies that cost you a lot of money. People love to buy and they love to be sold. People love to be sold. What they hate is they hate to be convinced. And convincing is what you resort to when you did a very poor job selling. Now, what does that mean? Well, human beings are are singularly motivated. What does that mean? Human beings do things for one reason. All human beings do things for one reason and one reason only. Would you like to know what that is?
Please.
Because they feel like it. Because they feel like it. Period. Like, so if you understand, like, basic cognitive human psychology. Okay, I like saying those big words. I have no idea what they mean, but I heard somebody say them in a sentence once. That's how they said it, so I said it. So anyway, but if you understand how human psychology, and you look at a human being who takes an action, a human being who works out, they work out because they feel like working out. A human being that doesn't work out because they don't feel like it. A human being who learns how to sell, they learn how to sell because they feel like it. A human being who buys because they feel like buying. By the way, if that's true, if human beings buy because they feel like buying, then I don't ever have to try to get anybody to buy. So when I'm selling, I think one of the reasons I'm so good at selling, this is like a gold bar I'm dropping right on the floor in front of you. One of the reasons I'm so good at selling, and we did $1 million in sales last week. So I'm not saying that I'm good at sales. We did $1 million. My son and I did a campaign. We did $1,039,000 last week, right? Okay, so that's significant. Okay, so and I say last week, it was actually a week before last. So the reason we can do like crazy numbers in sales is because I never attempt to get anybody to buy. Everything that I do when I'm selling is all about creating an environment where people feel like buying more than they feel like not buying. That's the whole thing. Now, what does that mean? Well, if you look at a human being, you got this person right here. I'm gonna have to do this faster than I usually do, Jay. Okay. And they're gonna see this fact, right? This fact is a factor. The fact is my car broke down. The fact is my car broke down in the rain. I got a flat tire in the rain. The fact is the doctor gave me bad news. The fact is I lost my job. The fact is there's a pandemic. The fact is the government shut my business down. It doesn't matter. The fact is just the fact. And here's what I'm going to say. If your attitude is right, the facts don't matter at all. Okay? So when you look at that fact, what you're going to do is you are going to put a frame around that fact, and that frame is called focus. And that focus is something you are going to have in your head. So you get this focus in your head, and the focus in your head is infinitely more important than the fact that happened out there. Infinitely more important. And so what happens is you're going to put that frame around it, and it's either going to make you happy or it's going to make you sad. Okay, I'm going to turn it on the board now because this is going to get good. Okay, so now that focus in your head is going to manifest. That focus in your head is going to create a belief. That belief is a two-sided coin. What do you mean it's a two-sided coin? If you flip it, it lands on heads. That belief manifests itself as faith. If you flip it and it lands on tails, that belief manifests itself as doubt. Now, what most people don't realize that faith and doubt are both belief. Faith is belief in the outcome I desire. Doubt is belief in the outcome I don't desire. When I have more belief in the outcome I don't desire than I do outcome I do desire, I have doubt, but it's still a belief. Does that make sense? You with me so far?
I am.
Okay, so this focus in my head is going to produce a belief, that belief is going to produce a feeling. So the focus in my head produces a feeling in my heart. And the feeling in my heart is 100% determined by whether or not my focus produced faith or whether my focus produced doubt. And the feeling that I have in my heart is the genesis. It's the energy. It's the mitochondria of all of my actions. Okay. So this feeling in my heart is going to be determined by the focus in my head. If the focus in my head creates the belief of faith, then the feeling in my heart is going to be the feeling of anticipation. And anticipation is the energy that I get in the present based on the outcome I expect in the future. That's what anticipation is. Remember when you were a little child, you knew it was Christmas Eve, you knew what you were getting the next day, it was time to go to bed. The only thing you couldn't do was fall asleep. Why? Because energy is not physical. Physicality is just an arena in which energy manifests itself, right? So you couldn't sleep. Why? Because your expectation of what you were getting the next day made you so excited that your mind was racing and you couldn't sleep. That's what anticipation always does. Writers say, authors say, I've got writer's block. You don't have writer's block. You're just expecting the book not to sell. If you're expecting the book to sell and it to change people's lives, you will write the book. People say, I'm afraid to talk to people. You're not afraid to talk to people. You're just expecting them not to buy. Right? I've got a fear of failure. You don't have a fear of failure. You have a focus in your head that manifests as the belief of doubt, and the feeling that doubt creates is the feeling of anxiety. Anxiety is the feeling that most people have when they mistakenly think that they are having fear. Okay? So what they really have is anxiety. Now, anxiety feels like fear. Anxiety smells like fear. It looks like fear, but it's not fear. Here's the difference. Fear is caution over a real and present danger. If I'm on the golf course, my ball lands by an alligator, I'm afraid to go hit it. I just drop a ball and keep it moving. Why? Because my fear of an alligator is if I turn my back on this alligator, hit this ball, the alligator may not like it, but he might like me, and I don't want to be his afternoon snack, right? A fear of fear can serve you. Anxiety cannot serve you, has never served you, will never serve you, and anxiety is the thief of your dreams. And you have the same exact physical reaction to anxiety that you do to fear. The only difference is when you have fear, there is a real and present danger. Fear is caution over a real and present danger. Anxiety is caution over a future imagined danger. And so what anxiety causes me to do, it causes me to waste present energy on a future outcome that is undesirable to me. So literally worrying about something makes it not happen. Why? Because when I have anxiety robs me of the ability to act. My head sweats, right? My hands sweat. My heart palpitates. My hands shake. I have an anxiety attack. And what happens? What happens is I go somewhere and sit down. I go somewhere and lie down and I can't even fall asleep. Why? Because I'm having a physical reaction to an expected outcome in the future that I do not desire. So the focus in my head creates a feeling in my heart, and the feeling in my heart creates a function in my hands. And the function in my hand is going to be determined by the feeling. So if the focus in my head creates faith, that faith is going to create anticipation. That anticipation is then going to create the function of power. I will be able to take action, the power to act. But if the focus in my head creates the belief of doubt, then it's going to create the feeling of anxiety in my heart. The function of my hand is going to be paralysis or powerlessness. So now I can't move because my anxiety paralyzed me. And most people make the mistake of thinking that they have fear when they really have anxiety. So what happens when you're in a selling situation, when people buy, they buy because you have put a frame around buying that causes them to believe that they can get the outcome they desire. They begin to anticipate it. They get energized to go and buy it, which gives them the power to pull out their credit card. So instead of trying to get people to buy something, disconnect yourself from the outcome and focus on using your energy to create an environment where buying feels good. And what will happen is you'll make lots more sales. In fact, do you realize that if you act like if somebody, not if you act like, if your potential client feels like you need them, they believe they don't need you. But if you can make them feel like you don't need them, then they believe they don't need you. And see, I've been doing this for so long that like I get paid $25,000 an hour for coaching. And I am in no shortage for clients. I've got 3 coaching packages. I've got a $55,000 coaching package, a $155,000 coaching package, and $1 million coaching package. And we sell all of them every year.
Outstanding.
Right? But how do we do that? Because my clients know, like when you work with me, it's going to benefit you more than it's going to benefit me. And I don't mean to come across arrogant, because that's not what I mean. I just understand, like I have clients, you understand, like I've got my 2 Comma Club X award here. I got my 2 Comma Club award over here. But you know what? This is my, and I've got 4 clients who've earned this. This is my $1 million day award for doing $1 million in sales in a day. I've got 4 students who've earned $1 million in a day.
Wow.
So, and by the way, those 4 students who made done $1 million in a day, I mean, the biggest package any of them have bought from me have been like $155,000 program. So I know who gets the long end of the stick when I sell one of my coaching programs to somebody. Does that make sense? So what you've got to do is you've got to be so good at producing the result for your clients that when you're done presenting it, they feel so good about the outcome you can produce for them because of the focus, the things you've gotten them to focus on, created faith, which produced anticipation, which produced power. So that was a little bit of a long rant, but hopefully it was helpful.
Very helpful. I tell you what, you got my juices flowing. I'm believing. I'm feeling it. I'm emotionally connected. Outstanding. Well, that explains and gives us a great example as to why you were at the top of your game. So I love it. What are you continuing to do today to show up even more empowered, bring more value than you ever have, and continuing to grow?
Oh yeah, that ABL, always be learning, always be learning. A teacher who is not a student lost their right to be a teacher. I am always learning the things I don't know. I would also say study multiple disciplines, study science and art and philosophy, and study multiple things so that you can begin to see the connection from seemingly unrelated things, because there are no unrelated things. And so when you have the ability to see how seemingly unrelated things connect, then you have the ability to produce something like an iPhone, which it's a phone. I don't know if you remember this presentation from Steve Jobs in 2007. It's a phone, it's a browser, it's a music player. Well, it's so much more than that though, right? It's a camera, it's a flashlight, and on and on and on. It's a credit card. It does so many things because he saw, hey, what's the thing we're going to have with us all the time? Oh, we're going to have our phone. When I leave my wallet at home, I can still go to a restaurant and eat. I can still go to the gas station and put gas in my car because I have Apple Pay on my phone. Begin to see how seemingly unrelated things are actually connected together. Begin to show people how those things being connected together can make their life better. And then people will be in an environment where they feel like buying whatever you are selling.
So well said. Love it. So before I ask my final question, Myron, where can we go to connect with you? What's the best place to go to consume your content and buy your books, and also look to engage with you in coaching?
Sure. So the best place is Instagram. And in Instagram, I have a link tree. So if you want to be a part of my free Bible study, that's there. If you want to be a part of my Make More Offers challenge, where I teach people over a 5-day period how to make more offers, lead generation offers, core product offers, high ticket offers, continuity offers, then the Make More Offers challenge. If you want to learn how to sell from stage, all of that is in my Instagram, and my Instagram is at Myron Golden. So everything, if you want to reach, and if you want to send me a message personally, the best place to send me a message is on Instagram. I actually check my own Instagram messages. So.
Outstanding. Well, we will definitely link to that in the show notes. And so here's my final question to you. So what's been the most pivotal learning experience in your professional career to date?
Oh, that's easy. That's easy. So the most pivotal learning experience is a lesson that I learned in my book, From the Trash Man to the Cash Man. I have this concept called the window of wealth. Okay. And without going into detail about that, the most pivotal concept that I've ever learned, the window of wealth in the financial house, is this. It's easier. This was my first financial breakthrough. It is still the one that I hang my hat on today. It's easier to make a lot of money in a short period of time than it is to make a little money over a long period of time. I discovered that in April 1999, because 1998, I made $48,000 for the year. And in April 1999, in 1 week, I made $6,200. And I said, wow. And I said it backwards. I said, wow. And I said, it's amazing how easy that was. And then I concluded that must mean it's easier to make a lot of money in a short period of time than it is to make a little money over a long period of time. And I have discovered and so in that moment, I decided from now on, I'm going to stop looking for all the hard ways to make a little bit of money. I'm going to look for the easier ways to make a lot. Archimedes said, if you give me a lever long enough and a prop strong enough and a place to stand, I can single-handedly move the world. Myron Golden says, I can always make up in leverage what I lack in ability. Too many people are struggling because they are endeavoring to achieve some really outstanding result by just their own limited ability. And while you were using your limited ability to produce that result, I was looking for leverage. So go find the right leverage and it'll change your life for the rest of your life. It'll give you the ability to collapse time frames and make a lot of money in a very short period of time.
Beautiful. Beautifully said. So much wisdom there. So, Myron, thank you so very much.
Thank you, Jay.
I'm grateful.
It's been fun.
Oh, absolutely. I'm grateful for you for sharing. And I know that those that are listening and watching are going to get so much value out of this. I know that you all took a lot of notes. Remember to not only study what you've learned here, but act on it. Act on it and connect with Myron. Myron, thank you. I appreciate you.
Thank you, Jay. I appreciate the opportunity, brother.
Absolutely. And for all of you, thank you so very much for watching and listening. And please take a moment to subscribe, rate, and leave a review. Let us know what you thought of this episode. And most importantly, why don't you share with us 1 to 2 key takeaways and put that in the comments. That would go a long way and would help both of us. So we would appreciate that. And to enjoy more episodes and to learn how Jay Shear Business Consulting can help build a solid foundation for your service-based business, just visit jayshearbusinessconsulting.com. And until next time, keep learning and growing and apply the wisdom in From the Trash Man to the Cash Man. And we'll see you on the next Business Minds Coffee Chat. Take care.
Jay Shear.
Jay Shear.
Jay Shear.
Jay Shear
Business Consultant.
Jay Shear Business Consulting.